Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I was playing Deathmark today. Deathmark is a visual novel released by Experience, the people who did Demon Gaze, and localized by Axis Games, who have done... I think they did all of them, except for... No, actually, no, they didn't, did they? No, that was Nicer. I'm thinking of Nicer, who localized Demon Gaze. Well, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So, yes, this is a visual novel. It's very horror-based, which is very appropriate considering they brought this out around Halloween, but I had to buy it because they wouldn't send me review code, and honestly, after playing it, I can kind of understand why, but we'll get to that. So, I just need to point out real quick that PlayAsia actually paid for the copy of it that I bought because my funds are a little low thanks to getting my new computer, but thankfully I should be back on the horse very, very, very soon, as in like 2 hours after I record this video, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. So, I've played 2 chapters. There are 5, apparently, so I'm kind of worried about the game's longevity overall. It says I have 2 hours on the clock, but I'm pretty sure that's a lie, because it doesn't count your retries. So basically, if you go through an area for like 5 minutes and then have to restart because you made the wrong decision at a live or die section, it means that it will probably just lose all that time once you go back to where you were previously. So I've probably been playing it for longer. I'd say at least 2.5 hours, maybe closer to 3, but it depends on how I think about it, really. Now, let me tell you why I'm a little bit worried about this game's longevity. Imagine if I started talking like this, and you couldn't use the YouTube speed up capability to make my voice go a little bit faster. Yeah, the game has got a massive problem. It does 3 things. 1, it's a visual novel. Fair enough. That's not actually a bad thing in and of itself, but it really is quite something in this case because of the 2 other things. The second thing is that the text crawls. I'm a fast reader. I don't mean to blow my own trumpet, but I was very well read as a kid, and therefore I got some really good read speed out of it. Should have heard me, you should have heard me reading in my bloody, what was it, 4th year class? I sounded like a bloody machine gun. And, yeah, reading text that goes really slowly just pisses me off to no end. Which is why as soon as I started playing this game, I was hammering the X button like crazy, trying to get the text to complete faster. Then I went to the options menu as soon as I could get to the options menu to try and make it so that the text would go across the screen faster. Neither of those work. You can't speed up the text in any way, shape, or form. It just slowly crawls along, and you have to sit there and read it. The only way that you can get through the text faster is by holding the auto button and then going back and reading the lines in the log. Eventually, I just started skipping lines altogether because holy shit, it is so frustrating trying to actually read stuff in this game when you're a fast reader. If you're a slow reader that can only read like a word or 2 a second, you'll probably be fine, but god damn, it is just sluggish and you can't improve it in any way, shape, or form, and it's really frustrating. It's the main reason why I gave up after 2 chapters instead of like 3, although to be fair, if they did make the text go by faster, you would be able to get through this game so quickly that you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. But nevertheless, let's move on to talking about the actual game. So basically, the story is that the doll from Bloodborne is trying to help you solve the mysteries of the deaths of some people, and they are basically corpse party style ghosts who are out to kill you, and you basically have to try and either save them or destroy them. And that is basically like a big spoiler that there's a good and a bad ending. So basically, the gameplay works kind of like Corpse Party Book of Shadows, if you remember that. There were a couple of stories in that one where you'd wander around like over squares, like map squares, and you just, you'd turn down different corridors and you just walk down them square by square by square by a grid. This game does exactly the same thing, but it does it really weirdly, where your direction isn't determined by you. Your direction is determined by you enter the room. So, imagine you have come up on a crossroads. you come up from the south side, so you're on one square there, then you go into the square that has the 4 different directions going out. You're facing north. Now, if you want to go north, you press the up button. If you want to go west, you press the left button. If you want to press right, you press the right button. Now, imagine if you wanted to go east or right, so you press right, and that takes you into the room to the east. Now, there's a room that's directly in front of you, again, off to the east. So you think, oh, I'll just press the right button again to go through that, right? Wrong. Because you came into the room from the west, therefore you're facing east, and in order to continue on, you have to press the up key again. It's kind of like tank controls, except not. It's a really fucking bizarre movement control scheme, and it makes me scratch my head every time I try and use it. There's this one segment in Chapter 2 where you have to basically beeline it straight to the entrance of the area, and if you press the wrong button, you die. So imagine being confused about what button will take you in what direction when you will die if you go off the beaten path. It's kind of silly. But yeah, it's really, really strange movement. I don't know why they were convinced to do it like that. Probably because they didn't want to animate like having 4 different images for each way you could face. But still, the ability to change, like, you know, moving up, down, left, right on the map, instead of having the weird little tank-like controls where up is always moving forward, down is always moving back, and left and right are always moving left and right in the direction that you're facing. It's really bizarre and hard to explain until you've used it, but trust me, it's awkward as hell. But there is also a second part to it. When you move the left analog stick, so you can actually do both of these separately, which I quite like, although again, the movement controls suck. When you move the left stick, it actually moves your flashlight around the area, and that's what you use to examine areas. You press X on a flashing sparkle, because that's usually what it is. And when you do that, you're given the option to feel something, look at something, use an item or on something, or just back away. And to be fair, it actually uses really, like, reasonable interactions with stuff. Like, you'll do exactly what you expect to. It's not like Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters, that's the name, where you have no idea what the bloody hell you're going to do if you're going to, like, lick a table or something, you know? It was that weird little system they had going on there. But still, it works well enough, and the rest of the controls are really simple. The only downside is that some of the sparkles can be really bloody hidden, and they're hard to see unless you put your flashlight dead center over some sparkles sometimes, and then, again, the flashlight can hide the sparkle because the flashlight is actually pretty bright. It's kind of annoying. But, as I was saying, sorry, a little bit of a indigestion there. Yeah. Basically, the investigation stuff works absolutely fine. You get items. You can't actually combine them together until you get to the actual battles of the game, which is a little bizarre, but again, that's something we're going to get to. So, you're wandering around looking for items and sparkles and, you know, trying to get used to the body controls. And then you'll eventually run across something like a ghoul, or you'll just run into a weird situation where you feel something haunting you, and then you'll be introduced to the live or die mechanic. Now, the live or die mechanic is, honestly, I'm not even sure why it's here. So the drill is, you have soul points, which is basically HP, and when you get into a live or die situation, it will slowly start counting down, and you need to press a button in order to, like, select a choice. Usually you're given 3. Most of the choices will instantly kill you, so there's no point to soul power. No, I'm not joking. There are some, like, it's not like, say, 95% instant kill for the bad options, but it's usually like 50 or 60%. So, like, sometimes you'll just select the bad option and you'll only lose like 500 soul power, but it won't leave you with much. But yeah, basically you pick between 3 options. The game will tell you through the investigatory bits what is the right option to pick and what isn't the right option to pick, which is nice. But it's also usually very easy to tell, and we'll get to that. But yeah, so you pick whatever you like, and if you die, thankfully the game's got some really frequent checkpoints, so you can just go straight back to the last decision, and it'll take you back to the last point before you screwed yourself, or possibly like a couple of extra minutes back, nothing too bad. You can also save anywhere except in the final battle, and after you've done something, they'll lead you to like the final battle or screw you. So it's actually really forgiving on that part. So yeah, the investigations, as I said already, are actually very simple. They tell you what you need to know in very clear language. It's usually very easy to know exactly what you need to do when you get in there, and this does carry over to the battles. So the battles are actually kind of bizarre. You've collected all your items and you basically just get whisked away immediately. Like, say, you know how in Danganronpa, once you've found all the evidence, you hear the ding-dong, ding-dong, and it takes you straight to the class trial? Well, it's basically the same thing here. You get little warnings that the time of your death is getting closer, and basically once it's done, that means you have to fight the boss. And once you've fought the boss, or once you're in fighting the boss, basically you've got you and a companion. You get a few companions throughout the game. You can pick one to go in with, and this will fuck you, trust me, I'll get to that. But you can pick one, and once you've picked one, you will go around the world with them. Sometimes you'll solve specific things, and then when you get into the final battle, they become your partner. And then you can use 2 items at the same time. So to use an example from the second boss fight, in order to drive away a swarm of bees, you pour some sticky liquid on a baseball and throw it away. One person does the pouring, one person does the throwing the baseball. And once you've done that, that lets you move on. And the battles are basically just survive for as long as possible to deliver either the killing or the saving blow. Most of the investigations are built around the idea that you can either save the spirits or you can kill the spirits. But it's very obvious that if you kill the spirits, you will get the bad ending because people start dying left and right. So yeah, generally you want to be aiming for the good kill. You want to be aiming for the good option, which will usually satisfy them. And again, the investigations are very simple and very plain. There's no like real sleuthing to do. Once you have all the clues, all you need to do is read them at like a high school grade level and you'll understand what you need to do in order to actually get the good or the bad ending. Again, sometimes it's just finding some annoying like little clue here or there that'll help you out. There is one thing that annoys me about the battles, though. Like, they're easy, sure, but you have this annoying tendency to walk into a battle with a companion who can't win, and I know this because I did it on both chapters. I walked in with the wrong companion twice. I didn't even know the second time until I looked it up in the guide, but we'll get onto that. But yeah, they're kind of silly, and it works in the grand scheme of things. They explain it, and it doesn't do anything particularly stupid, but it's just kind of odd that the spirit just doesn't go all out and kill you immediately. But whatever, it works as a thing. It's kind of a neat way of putting all the stuff you've known up to this point to use. It's just, yeah, as I said, if you walk in with the wrong dude, you're fucked, and you've got no way to know until you go and try with another one of the partners. Because you'd have more than one at a time, and you will need to swap, at least in Chapter 2. I don't think you need to swap in Chapter 1, because funnily enough, you can take along either partner in Chapter 1, but they give you an option on who to take into the final battle anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. But that is just... Actually, no, it does matter. Sorry, it does matter. And I did pick the wrong one, yeah. I'm stupid. Excuse me, I literally I do these off the cuff. I've got like a list of points here, but even then I can't save myself from my own stupidity. But anyway, where was I? Battles, right. So, yeah, the battles are okay. I still picked the wrong protagonist, and you gotta be careful of that, because god damn it. But they're okay. They make sense. They aren't hidden in the sense that they don't have like hidden logic that you need to follow. You get told everything you need to know, which some people might find disappointing, not being able to work it out for themselves, but yeah, it's just, that's just a thing. So there are jump scares, but they're not that frequent and they're not that bad. The worst one I've come across so far is basically just a ghost flashing up in your face like all those old style Flash horror games. But like usually it's like quiet. It's not like Five Nights at Freddy's where the sound could literally break your eardrums. It's quiet enough to not be too bad, although I imagine like really weak-hearted people might be surprised by them, but yeah. And there's no like touch the doll and die like in Corpse Party. Like there's no things that'll just instantly kill you. in that sense. You'll generally get warned if you're about to be in a bad situation, they'll kill you, at least in the first 2 chapters. There's no, like, look inside a hole and then, you know, pick the wrong option, get your eye stabbed in, game over. Either you'll get a live or die, or you'll be whisked off to the final boss fight, in which, you know, you can die, and then again, the checkpoints are so generous that they'll only put you like a couple minutes back at most. It's fine. One thing that's really disappointing, though, is the writing and the localization. Now, I don't think this is their fault, because I ended up watching a couple of videos on YouTube, and there was this one lady who had translated the bloody game, like, some of it anyway, and I had to look up, like, how to get through the second boss battle, because, again, as I said before, I took the wrong partner in, and I ended up not being able to do some of the actions I needed to do. But the annoying thing about it is that when she translated it, the lines were almost exactly the same as they were in the English version. Like, you could see some of the translated lines and they were almost identical. So I'm pretty sure that they did a decent job based on what I saw of, like, the Japanese version being translated by some random lady on the internet. But the problem is that the story is actually really uninteresting in the grand scheme of things. There's this one thing where you're trying to figure out, like, who gave you the mark in the first place, which is, like, the thing that's going to kill you, and it's going to kill everybody else, because that's why they all show up in the first place, to get your help. And and then everybody else just rotates in, and you go out and you try and solve the mystery and all that, but there's absolutely no character development whatsoever. At least as far as I can tell. Like, sometimes you'll get, like, a monologue that lasts for a couple of minutes, but then that's basically it. And strangely enough, these are the only portions of the text where you can press the X button multiple times in order to skip the line without having to hold the L button and then go back in the text log. It's fucking bizarre. But the thing is that none of the characters get any real screen time. Like, you get a couple at the beginning of chapter 1, they swap out at the end, and you get this one guy that stays with you, and you think, oh, cool, this guy's going to be with me for the rest of the game. Then in chapter 2, he leaves. And then someone else swaps in for chapter 3. And as I said, let me try that again. I only played 2 chapters, and not counting my failures, I only had 2 hours on the clock, and the game's got 5 chapters. So you've got all these characters that are basically going in and out of a revolving door, and they don't get any screen time whatsoever. The main character has amnesia, and the only other character is literally the doll from Bloodborne. Who, again, like, doesn't even have any character whatsoever, so, you know, less than the doll from Bloodborne. But literally a doll that talks to you and tries to tell you things, and that's it. Like, there's no real flavor or personality to any of the characters, so they're not particularly interesting. The ghosts do get backstory, but you don't get, like, the kids in, you don't really get the massive amount of time you get to help develop, what's the bloody word? You don't get to feel sorry for any of the major ghosts, because basically all they do is try and kill you, more or less. The only way you get any sort of, like, positive reinforcement out of the ghosts is when you get the good, like, the save ending. Like, how you do all the right things without actually killing them. And that's basically it. It doesn't do anything to keep me interested in the world or its politics or just the general ghosts or the characters in it whatsoever. Everything feels disposable. And again, literally a revolving door of characters. It's bizarre. I don't know why it's a thing. Now, there is one thing that I wanted to point out, though. There's no voice acting. Like, well, when I say that, I'm lying a little bit. When you've got this game and you've got sound bites, like, you know how they've got things like, you know how in Danganronpa where all the class trials are voiced, but everything outside of them you hear, like, little voice lines like, yeah, and oh no, and in the case of one of the worst characters in Danganronpa 3, you piece of shit! But that's all you get in this game, and I don't know whether that's an improvement, if I'm being perfectly honest, because it's an experience game, and as I said, the dialogue isn't great. The overall sound is actually lacking. I've probably been spoiled by Corpse Party, but some of the sound in this game just isn't really that impressive, especially the death scenes. You get the same scream every single time you die, no matter what killed you, and it's not great. You don't even get that many great kills. Like, half the kills that I have played that have been, like, running out of soul power, which is, you know, getting the wrong choice when you're up against, like, a ghostly foe, is just your heart stops beating and that's it. It's really depressing. And in the bad endings of the 2 chapters that I played, like, the partners end up dying, you don't get to see them die. At most, you hear a couple of sounds and just a splatter of blood, but you don't get any sort of, like, creative kills or anything, which is, again, a little bit disappointing considering how creative Corpse Party got. My personal favorite kill scene in any horror game that I've ever... Actually, to be fair, I don't play very many horror games, but the scene where you get buried alive in Corpse Party is so good that I still remember half the sounds from it, like 3 or 4 years after I've played it. And playing a game like this where all the kills are so unimaginative is really disappointing. Couple more things, and I've waited to the end of the video to bring this up, but I guess to the ending. So I was looking at the guide, and as it turns out, the guide was actually more or less a story guide, as well as like a translation guide, because the guide was made several months ago, back when the Japanese version came out, and they went to the effort of translating the entire thing. So, you know, good job, guys. That's actually impressive effort. And out of curiosity, once I put down the game and I'm like, oh, I might as well see what the ending is like so I can actually talk about it. I just want to say this. I'm not going to spoil it, but I guessed it. I immediately guessed what the big twist was instantly. Like, as soon as I had a general understanding of what was going on, which was like the first 20 minutes of the game, I was like, yeah, such and such is such and such is such and such. I guessed it. I never guessed this shit properly. I was kind of impressed. So, admittedly, it was kind of a foregone conclusion. Mainly because it was like the only things that could realistically happen in that short a time frame. But still, it's just... yeah. When someone as dumb as me with no idea of like decent story or just general writing in particular can guess the ending to this game straight away, you can kind of guess how interesting the rest of it was. Also, Chapter 6 is paid DLC. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I think it was because Chapter 6 came out on the Nintendo Switch version in Japan, I think it was. And so when they released it for the... or was it the PS4 version? I don't remember. But basically they must have had to release it as paid DLC in Japan, and I'm guessing that Axis Games wasn't exactly allowed to include it as like a first week purchase bonus or whatever, but... well, yeah, there you go. Chapter 6 is paid DLC. That's actually a thing. So to summarize, it's weird. The text speed is really slow and that just kills it for me immediately. Don't know why they did that on a game that's 90% visual novel. The movement controls are so strange and it's really hard to get used to them if you've played like any other kind of adventure exploration game ever. The investigations are really simple and will reveal the answers to everything in plain English, so you don't need to worry about it too much. They're also very scripted, and they feel scripted. Like, I usually don't bring this up unless they really feel scripted, but they really do feel like you're on a rail the entire time. Some of the mechanics, like live or die, just seem pointless for whatever reason. I'll give them points for letting you save a lot, but again, it's not great. It's not very hard to understand. It doesn't really do anything except hide a sparkle here or there in the first 2 chapters that makes it a little bit harder to get the good ending. But yeah, other than that, the writing is completely uninteresting. I have no attachments to any of the characters whatsoever because, as I said before, there's a personality-less doll, there's a dude with amnesia, and everybody else is literally in a revolving door the entire time. There's no creative deaths, the ghosts are relatively uninteresting and not particularly deep. And I'm done. After the 2nd chapter, I put the game down and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see any more of this. And If you want something along these lines that's a horror game, but actually done really well with fancy investigation and stuff like that, I would recommend Corpse Party on PSP. Don't bother getting Book of Shadows, because that'll just make you excited for Blood Drive, and then Blood Drive turned out to be absolutely freaking terrible. So yeah, there you go. That was, according to Audacity, 25 minutes of ranting about Deathmark. I hope you learned a little bit about the game from me talking about it. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Save your money. Go buy Corpse Party. It's actually cheaper right now. Actually, that's a good question. Is it on sale for the for Halloween? Because you think it might actually be on sale for Halloween. Let me just go and check that real quick. So I can do that because I'm sitting in front of a computer, and computers are very magical things that let you do more than one thing at once. Unfortunately not, but it's still half the price of Deathmark, and I recommend it like 3 times over Deathmark, so there you go. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time. Oh, and I almost forgot. If there's a woman in this game, she's guaranteed to get half naked at some point. It's fucking bizarre. I was just looking up some of the reviews, actually, on Deathmark, and it just reminded me that, like, there's a bloody schoolgirl that ends up in nothing but a bra and panties. The woman that that basically starts the story ends up basically getting her clothes blown off. And then there's this reporter lady who shows... no, not the reporter lady. Then there's this other lady that shows up in a bloody bag in the second chapter who's also half naked. It's really bizarre. But it's something that... what do I call them again? It's experience. It's something that experience does. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a weird thing to bring up. But there you go. So, yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, bye again.